Welcome to the Motherhood Alliance podcast, the podcast dedicated to empowering moms and families on their health and wellness journey. I'm Brittany Suttner.
And I'm Andrea Rinkus. Together, we're here to explore holistic approaches that go beyond conventional medicine.
Each week, we dive into topics that matter most to you. Everything from nutrition and mental health to alternative therapies and natural living.
And whether you're a new mom navigating the early stages of parenthood or a seasoned pro looking for new ways to support your family's well-being, you're in the right place.
Even better, all of our guests are local small business owners who you can actually talk to and work with. You can learn more about today's guest and connect with hundreds of other health and wellness professionals through our informative and easy-to-use directory at motherhoodalliance.com.
Before we get started, keep in mind that this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for personal healthcare advice. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any changes based on the podcast content.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Are you ready to help your family thrive? Let's get started. Hi, we are Britt and Andrea from motherhoodalliance.com, and we are excited to welcome you to a 3-episode series with Kim Walsh, who is a certified PEMF professional based out of Neenah, who has a deep passion for all things holistic living. Back in 2017, Kim was introduced to PEMF therapy simply by listening to a podcast, and it immediately intrigued her, especially after they talked about how it was used on horses. That single moment sparked a bold decision to invest in her first system and to launch her own PEMF business in 2018. Since then, she's truly become a local PEMF expert and has helped people and pets of all sizes overcome injuries, chronic pain, and more. When at home, Kim enjoys trail riding her horses, gardening, raising chickens and bees, and spending time with her 5 daughters, 7 grandkids, and 2 beloved corgis, Tyson and Tulip. All right, it's time to invite Kim to the mic, so let's dive into learning more about her journey and the power of PEMF.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Motherhood Alliance podcast. We're excited to welcome back Kim Walsh here. Welcome back, Kim.
Thank you.
We are just so excited to have another great conversation about PEMF with Kim. We had an amazing discussion talking all about what PEMF is and what kinds of things it does, the history of it. If you guys haven't listened to that episode, definitely pause this, take a listen to that one before you come back to it, because that just gives you a really good base on what we're going to be talking about today, which is all about like the surprising benefits, all the different things that PEMF actually does help with. So we had talked a lot about the history, the baseline, like what it is. But in this episode, can we just start with like, what does it actually help with? Like, what is it? Short-term pain? Is it long-term chronic issues, cancer? What can you give us more of an interesting, just to tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
All of the above that you mentioned. PEMF is great for acute injuries. I had a young man come in, I'm not going to say more than that, who had hurt his knee, and he was on crutches and did 3 one-hour sessions of PEMF, and his mind was blown how his pain was gone. The second session he came in, he was walking without crutches. So young people, this works really well because they're generally healthy. The older you get, the bigger your pharmaceutical load is, the more chronic issues you have, probably the longer it's going to take for PEMF to help you. But it's great for inflammation, for arthritis, all those chronic things that most people have. My brother-in-law has a system, and he had spinal stenosis, so he couldn't raise his arms above his head. He was taking about 4,000 milligrams of ibuprofen every day. I said, you can't do that. You're going to kill your liver and kidneys. And he's like, well, what am I supposed to do, Kim? I said, you need to try PEMF. So he sleeps on his every night. And he says, I won't live without this machine. I no longer have any pain. And spinal stenosis is not curable. So that's really saying something.
Yeah. So the short-term stances, like you said with that gentleman that had the knee injury, that would be where, a few sessions is going to help because it's going to recover that area, those cells that were damaged, right? But then for chronic things, like you just mentioned, arthritis, there are a lot of people that struggle with arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis. It gets, certain weather things can make it worse. Those people, it might actually be a good fit to have one of these in their home.
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
And I always kind of go back to what's the root cause. To me, rheumatoid arthritis, in my opinion, is the person has probably been eating something all their life that they're allergic to and they don't know it. And their body just goes, we can't do this anymore.
It's inflammation.
It's inflammation. Yeah. And PEMF for inflammation is probably the best thing that's out there. I've never seen anything like it. I have a someone who I met through PEMF, and I hadn't seen her in a couple of years, and she called me up and she said, Kim, I've spent thousands of dollars on doctors and they're not doing anything for my back pain. I need to come and see you. I said, hey, you've moved away a little farther away. Why don't you just rent my machine for the week? So she did, and I said, now don't just do your back. I want you to start at your shoulders and move all the way down your back. Okay. So she kept it for a week. I went to pick it up and I said, so how's your back? She goes, well, not only is my back better, but the arthritis in my hands is gone. Because when she put it up on her shoulders, it went all the way down to her hands. She bought a machine.
Yeah.
So is this, we talked about how this impacts cells. What types of cells is this actually impacting? Is this muscular cells, blood
Every kind
cells,
of cell.
bone cells?
Every cell. Any cell in your body needs an electrical charge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what about challenges that come typically later in life and are incurable, essentially, is like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. Can this help with that?
There are studies on the Parkinson's. I'm not sure if I haven't looked up studies on Alzheimer's, but in my opinion, PEMF is the foundation of your health. Like if your cells don't have their voltage that they need, it doesn't matter if you eat organic, if you sleep, if you drink a lot of water. If your cells don't have their charge, they're not going to be able to utilize that. So start with the foundation and build from there. PEMF's not a cure-all. It's not going to fix every single thing in the world, but it is a foundational type of modality that I think works so great for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And I've also heard you talk about immune function.
Mm-hmm.
So is this something, how would it help with immunity? So for example, if we were heading into sick season or like the winter months here in Wisconsin, where everybody does tend to get sick. And we talked about this in our last episode of kind of why we don't really get sick in the summer very often versus why we do in the winter. So go back and listen to that if you want some insight into that. But when it comes to winter time, generally, we're a lot of people are just slightly fearful of, we have a vacation coming up. Please, nobody get sick. Yeah, so how can this help with, if you're not currently sick, actually boosting your immune system so that when you are getting exposure to viruses and bacteria and things like that, your body can more easily fight them off?
Well, again, because your cells have the charge they need to do their job. That's the first thing. But also, I mean, this isn't, you don't just do PEMF. You need to eat correctly. You need to drink a lot of water. We're 70% water. People don't drink enough. I think everybody's chronically dehydrated. You need to get fresh air. You need to get sleep. You need to try and cut down on the stress in your life. Those are all things that contribute to people's immune system crashing. But PEMF is a foundational system that is, like, in my opinion, the number one thing you can do.
Mm-hmm. And we do want to spend a little bit of time in this episode talking about how it could benefit people with cancer.
Correct.
Because you actually have your own journey to tell us about.
Yes.
So can you share your story a little bit?
Sure. So cancer has really become epidemic. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it seems like everybody's getting cancer. I always thought I was pretty healthy, but then I was diagnosed last year with breast cancer, which I don't even like to say that because I don't want to give it that kind of power.
Oh, fair enough.
But I'm happy to see that right now I'm cancer-free. And I did that through no small, I think my pulse machine had a lot to do with it. I think it really helped keep my body, the oxygenation level up. I had told you guys earlier that when I first had an ultrasound done, I had a 2.1 centimeter tumor. And after pulsing for a couple of months and not really doing anything else besides that, it had shrunk down to 1.5. Mm. And I know quite a few other people personally who have done the same thing with their pulse machines and their tumors. Technically, I probably shouldn't even be saying that because PEMF does not cure cancer, but it gives the body what it needs to fight it.
Well, these are facts, though, so
Correct.
You're just telling us a fact.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
In my personal experience,
Exactly.
That's what happened. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But how did you discover that you had cancer in the first place?
I had a red patch on my right breast that I went in to have it looked at, and the nurse practitioner told me to go get an ultrasound done. So that was the next step that I took.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that, because do you have any other examples of people that you've worked with who have had either chronic disease, whether it's cancer or some of these other ones, arthritis, fibromyalgia, that you have worked with that you've been able to see awesome results with?
There was one lady that came in and she had a walker and she couldn't pick her, I can't remember if it was her left or right leg, more than about a half an inch up off the ground. I helped her onto the contoured bed and, she kind of was crying in pain. Her husband had to help her with everything. I said, look, you can come in here to see me, but you're not going to get results the way you want to unless you rent my machine. So she rented it for a week, and I said, now don't just use it an hour a day, really use this. Well, I think she used it 40 hours. But when I went to pick it up, I said, so how do you feel? And she goes, watch. And she stands up and she picks her leg all the way up to her hip.
No way.
Yeah, that's what I said. And her husband goes, but when I first dropped it off, I said, maybe you guys will want to buy one of these. And she said, oh, no, we can't afford that. No. And when I went to pick it up, the husband goes, oh, we're buying one.
Yeah.
Goes, I don't have to help her in the car anymore. I mean, it's pretty cool.
They don't want it back either. They want to feel good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Do professional sports teams have these on their sidelines? Are they using these actively?
I have personally sold to an NFL player, to a baseball team. There are tons and tons of sports. I'm not allowed to say who, but tons and tons of sports teams across all kinds of professional sports that understand and are beginning to realize what PEMF can do to help them. Every time I watch a football game and I see somebody getting smashed, I'm like, oh man, do they need PEMF?
Literally everybody that participated in that game is going to need it.
Yes.
So we talked briefly about this in our last episode, but what types of things do you recommend pairing this with for optimal recovery? Let's talk first with short-term things like small injuries, but then also with more of these long-term chronic issues that people are dealing with.
Sure. Well, I have become a big, huge believer in the red light therapy. I think it is amazing, and it pairs really well with PEMF because it also works at the mitochondrial level, helping mitochondria get back what it is they need to do their job. Color therapy, as weird as that sounds, is called photobiomodulation. Different colors affect the body in different ways. Blue is good. Not regular blue light that you get from computers and stuff, but blue for healing like wounds. Green is very calming. Red light, of course, goes in deep into the cellular matrix to help with that. I don't know. I can't talk about it like I talk about PEMF, but the more I learn about it, the more I think it's something else that everybody should have in their life. With
the colors, is that just like you get a green light bulb? Like a regular light bulb, right? Yeah. This isn't something special.
No.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I've even read about how people will choose certain colors and they're attracted to a certain color. And those colors are associated with different chakra. Like blue is, I think, the throat chakra. So if you have a hard time expressing yourself or you feel squashed, you might want to wear blue a lot. I'm always like, well, what's black? Because that's what I wear all the time. But anyway, so there's so much weird information out there.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting.
What about people with like medical implants? Is this still appropriate for them?
Not if it's got a battery. If you're talking about a hip replacement or something like that, that doesn't matter. Metal that's in their body, that doesn't matter. So it's so weird too, because people who come in over the years who have come in to see me end up becoming friends, right? And there was one woman who I didn't know from Adam, and she's now a very dear friend, and she was laying on the bed and she said, Kim, why am I feeling it in my rectum? I'm like, I don't know why you're feeling it in your rectum.
We are now great friends, yeah.
So about a week later, she goes, Kim, I've had hemorrhoids for 30 years and they're gone.
What?
I said, well, that's why you were feeling it in your rectum.
Now, I'm immediately thinking how much this could benefit the postpartum time frame.
Oh, yes.
Not only, well, I guess here's a question. Can you do this on kids and infants?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, because obviously there's a lot of trauma when it comes to babies being born and just the birth experience for them. But then from actual postpartum recovery, whether it's a vaginal delivery or a C-section, how much?
Put an accessory right down there, you know?
So it's another one I was just thinking of is, this was a couple of years ago, I went down to a chiropractor who wanted to buy a system, and she worked out of her house. So I just drove down there, and she had a young daughter who was about 8 years old. And I had brought the chair pad, and she thought she was going to buy the medium size machine, the $18,000 one. And all I had with me was the XL Pro, which is the $31,000 one. So her daughter's sitting there and she's trying it, and she sat in the machine, and her mom said the next day, she called me up and she said, my husband and I both realized that our daughter, who is very hyperactive, like ADHD, was suddenly calm. And she kept saying, Mom, buy this. Mom, buy this. And I'm like, kid, can you travel around with me? So they actually they did buy the XL Pro, and she loves it. And she does work with a lot of moms and babies too.
So why do you think that helped with kind of the hyperactivity of the child?
So going into the FDA approval things, one of the things that it's FDA approved for is depression and anxiety. So I don't know if it helps calm down the parasympathetic or the
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know
If
the
it helps
science behind
enhance
it.
that
Yes.
parasympathetic
Yep.
nervous system.
Well, we can
that
definitely,
makes sense. But yeah,
that's definitely something to research, because I think people are always looking for more natural ways to help with those types of things. You've brought up multiple times, and I'm going to say amen to this, is that, when somebody is looking to heal from something, it's not just buying a magic machine, right? Like you need to change your diet. You need to check how much hydration you have, check the toxicity load in your house. And that can be really overwhelming to people. But like when you would have people that you're working with, how would you kind of guide them on making some changes, or what were kind of the top things that you would tell them that they should be changing in their home to make there's an optimal experience?
I just talk about what things that I've done. Like, I store food only in glass containers. I don't use plastic. I don't drink out of plastic. I live in the country, so I have well water, but fluoride is in city water, and that's so horrible for you. So I'll say, maybe you want to get a reverse osmosis or something. I just talk about what I do, and then they can take whatever that, those suggestions are, if they want to do them or not. I mean, it's pretty overwhelming.
It can be.
We're bombarded. I mean, it's insane. Now I look at my toothpaste tube and I'm like, crap, my toothpaste in a plastic container.
Well, that, and it has dye in it.
Yes.
Oftentimes.
Yeah, if you're not careful.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. That is helpful. And I think that this is just a really awesome tool that people can have in their toolbox, So thank you so much for these first 2 episodes. You've really helped us understand, like, what is PEMF? What does it actually do? What can it help with? This has been really insightful. Now, you did mention the infrared light piece as well. And I know that you said that you were able to offer 10% off for our listeners for an infrared light. Is that right? Can you tell us about that?
The Mitolux, that is the one that it's a smaller system, but I love it because it has a stand and it goes right over my PEMF chair. So I am doing the PEMF, I'm doing the red light, and I'm doing the Neenah, which is a different modality, all at the same time.
That's the way to do it.
Right.
So this
I stack them all at the same time.
This infrared light has red light built into it. This is the one that has different colors.
No, this isn't. Well, it does, but you can't change it. So it has 2 different kinds of settings. One's just the infrared, which is fantastic for us. And then the other one has UVB light, which is what the sun produces that helps our body create vitamin D. Okay. And living in Wisconsin, you want to be getting vitamin D.
Sure.
And you can take a pill, or you can sit in front of this for 4 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
And I did mention this in the last episode, but we did talk about if you want to try out PEMF, there are a handful of people locally in our area that you can go and try it out with. But if you wanted to purchase a system for yourself, you would just contact Kim directly. And she is offering free shipping for anyone who is listening to this podcast. So that's great.
You can find her on the Motherhood Alliance profiles too.
Yep. Yeah. So if somebody wants to contact you, either just to learn more about PEMF or to talk to you about one of those discounts, how would they get a hold of you?
Well, the easiest probably is just to text or call me. My phone number is 920-385-3011.
Now you can never change your phone number.
I know.
Okay. All right. Well, we have one more episode left, and we're really excited to dive into this. We're going to be talking about how PEMF can benefit our pets, because this is something that you are still actively doing. You are helping people with their horses, with their dogs, with their cats, and bringing that PEMF benefit to those pieces of our family that we love as well. So that episode is coming up next. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving a rating or review, or sharing it directly with a friend who could benefit from the information? We know that you're a busy mom or caregiver, and our goal is to make your life easier by bringing tips and tricks directly from experts into your earbuds. By sharing this episode with someone you love, you can play a critical role in helping to make their life easier as well. We appreciate your time, and thank you for being a part of the Motherhood Alliance family.